Hi, Marty. I'm the real Marty Levinson. Keep on cutting.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet home Chicago.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself, www.ntnm.org on the web. 250,000 shows watched. And by the way, the most popular show we have is The Deep Tunnel. And we'll be talking more about that in just a little bit with our guest. Community Policing Caps24.org. Sonny Hirsch in his spare time is chairman of the District Advisory Committee of the 24th District. Excuse me. The 24th sector, which is basically West Rogers Park, meets the second Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. And in August, we have National Night Out, which is going to be in 2412, Tuesday, August 6th, 7 o'clock at Warren Park. In 2413 Sonny's Beat, which is south of Devon, Devon to Pratt. It's going to be at Greenbrier Park from 6 to about 7:30. And speaking of the Deep Tunnel, we have the deposed military dictator of, the former president of the Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Well, actually, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Terry O'Brien. How you doing?
Good, Avi. Thank you for having me on. They know me as Joe Citizen now.
yeah, you are Joe Citizen.
Exactly.
But you know what? Still still a lot more knowledgeable than most of the people I read when it comes to the environment and comes to our water situations here.
Oh, well. You know, they always say a little bit of knowledge really is dangerous, you know?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, unlike a lot of people, you didn't really have a political agenda.
And I'm not referring to myself.
Well, I have very little knowledge, and I'm very dangerous. What are you doing these days?
I'm working full-time with K Plus Engineering, environmental engineering company. It's been around for 21 years, and we're venturing now more into the civil side of things, dealing with transportation issues, drainage issues, which is a big thing around here lately with all the storms that have come to the Chicago area. And I'm doing a little lobbying, consulting for a couple people who have asked me to help them out. So.
Well, you certainly know the players. I mean, you were at the Water Rec for 24 years and the president for how
16 years. 16 out of the 24. So
retired gracefully, by the way, decided that it was time to go into private life and enjoy himself.
I wanted to see if the grass was greener on the other side of the fence.
Well, actually, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence as long as you use Miracle-Gro. No, that's not a plug.
Keep the phosphates out of the sewer.
Yeah, it's a different problem. It's not organic if you use the stuff, so understand that.
Use our biosolids.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, so you're enjoying it?
Yes, it's been good. It's the stress isn't what it used to be, and I'm getting around seeing a lot of people, and still seeing a lot of people in the same circles that we used to travel when we were at the Water Reclamation District. But it's been good. I've enjoyed it. It's hard to believe it's almost been 6 months now since I've retired, but it's been good. I got no complaints.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people tell me when they've retired from public office, even though they still keep working, and they said if they knew how good it felt, they would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah, I do miss the people.
Yeah.
There was a great group of people at the Water Reclamation District, very professional group. She's still there.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
works
that.
in the budget department right now. So,
yeah.
But no, there was. I'll tell you, we had a great employee base at the Water Rec. Very professional staff of men and women. So, but I do miss them, but I don't miss the headaches.
Yeah, one thing I will say, because I've met many of those people over the course of going to a number of different events over the years, is that people stuck around there because they actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like the old adage is it's not who you know, it's what you know. That's how they hire, through an exam process, which is very good, because then you have an understanding workforce as to what they should be doing and what you're trying to do as far as setting policy.
Yeah, because you know what, I've actually dealt with a number of different government agencies and organizations and all the rest of it, and there are very few that had as many good professional people as the Water Rec.
Well, like I said, it's a great agency.
You know what? It's like I wanted to have you on earlier, but of course you had to do business and you had to actually try to earn money for your family and all these other.
I have to clean my
lame
wastewater
excuses.
treatment plant up there.
Oh, that's right, by the way. You know what? For those of you who don't know, and we want to congratulate you, and by the way, you don't go on Facebook as much as you used to,
No.
but I actually did post the picture from the Water Rec site. Is the plant, what is it, 7 plants total in
Yeah,
the...
7 wastewater treatment facilities throughout the county.
And the wastewater treatment facility at Howard and McCormick, not far from here, is the Terry O'Brien facility.
Yep. Yeah, the board members and staff were kind enough to give me that honor. It was really a surprise.
Which is
It's
pretty-
even more so an honor, the fact that 4 generations O'Briens, well, 3 generations of O'Briens and 1 Hickey worked at that particular plant. My grandfather, my mother's father worked there. He was a chief operating engineer. And then my father worked there as well as my son. So
that's great.
there's
Yeah.
even more meaning.
That's 4 generations, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. 3 O'Briens, 1 Hickey.
Okay,
So
but it's family.
it's exactly.
Listen,
Someone might get specific out there and, say, hey, you're wrong.
No, but there's a Hickey.
All
and
this
Terry O'Brien.
Facebook and Twitter going on, they like to, back up the facts.
Yeah.
So-
It's interesting because you really have done what over the years to make the smell come out better from the plant. But I wonder, like if in the future, if somebody, if it's a bad day, the wind's blowing the wrong way and all the rest of it, boy, that O'Brien's really smelling up the place.
Doesn't smell, does it?
Actually, to me, it's if it had, I really haven't, I haven't had a problem.
We've had a conversation before in the past. If the material is anaerobic, it just sits there stagnant, you do generate an odor because the stuff starts to break down. But as long as it's being circulated, aerobic, you don't really have that much of a smell. I've always liked to give people who have issues with the odor problems around our facilities, give them a tour of the facilities, so that way they can actually get into the site and see what we're doing and how it's not as odorous as they think it is on the outside.
No, it's really not bad at all. The fact is that, and actually the complaints I heard were about 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple summers there where we had very dry summers, and the residue in the sewers gets trapped on the sides, and then you got a larger flow of air going through that, pushing it up through the sewer grates. So that's a lot of it's that. Sometimes with the rains it flushes all that out, so it gets rid of that stagnant odor.
Yeah, and by the way, if you want to see a really if you want to take a free, very interesting tour you wouldn't expect type thing of the facility, take the Skokie Swift. Catch it on Howard.
Right.
I haven't taken it that many times in my life, but when you go over McCormick, it goes right over the
The
facility.
treatment plant, yeah.
And, from an airplane, you see all these things that look like round swimming pools. Well, they got tons of them over there, but what they actually are, and I should let you explain it because you know better than me.
That's part of the settling process of the water after it goes through an aeration process where the microorganisms eat up any organic matter that's in the water supply. So those circular settling tanks act almost like a cup where the water's pumped in, and as the solids settle to the bottom, the cleaner effluent flows over the rim of the cup, or what they call a weir in those tanks, and then goes into a final effluent tank before it's discharged into the North Shore Channel.
So this is actually not a lot of rich people with swimming pools.
No, no, it's not.
That's what I used to think. Shows you how smart I am.
Well, you can try swimming in there one day, Avi,
Yeah, right. Well, as a matter of fact, I suggest Michael Hawthorne go take a trip down the Chicago River in his bathing suit.
Nah.
So speaking of which, by the way, and Michael, listen, I don't mean you any personal harm, even though I have absolutely no respect for you as a journalist whatsoever. And that's me talking, not Terry. I shouldn't put it that way, but maybe I'll cut it out.
And
No, I won't.
I have no problems with any reporters or anything. The only thing I ask them to do is research what they're going to write. Because they had that whole front page at the deep tunnel, the massive waste of money. It's not. The deep tunnel was actually set up as a pollution control mechanism to capture the combined sewer areas, the combined sewers from the city of Chicago and 52 of the older communities. It was a pollution control mechanism. The second phase, which they're working on right now, are the reservoirs, which is the flood control phase. So, Mike Hawthorne, is that river not cleaner than it was before 1985? I would say so. When you look at all the river walks and the boats and everybody, I said it is working. The problem is that we're trying to complete these reservoirs. And if somebody would write to Washington and ask them to help the district, fund these things, maybe they would get done sooner rather than later.
Well, as a matter of fact, we're filming on June 12th, and in today's paper, which actually was a gift, thank you, Michael. I appreciate your writing about that. You don't seem to understand certain basic facts. I mean, you talk about how the federal government should mandate this, that, and the other thing, and the federal government wants to mandate hurrying up the project, but if you actually look at the history of the project, number one, in the 1980s, there was a guy named Charles Percy who slowed things down considerably. I have a pretty good memory.
There you go.
Yeah, pornographic memory. It works every time. And the fact is that I know you had to basically go hand in hand seeking favors in Washington.
Yeah. Well, the understanding, and part of that article was alluding to green infrastructure projects. First of all, the last storm was April 18th. How many days before that storm did it rain? I think it rained every day. It
rained, as a matter of fact, we had, if not the largest rainfall ever in April, it was the second largest rainfall ever in April.
Exactly. Chicago is not like Philadelphia. Chicago's not like Milwaukee. Chicago has a different geology than those particular cities. Chicago there's clay-based layer 2 to 3 feet below the topsoil. So and clay is like a pool liner when it comes to holding water. It doesn't absorb it or filter it like sand or regular topsoil. So the ground was just saturated with water. Even if you go into the park areas after the storm or before the storm of April 18th, there was a lot of pools of water out there. What does that tell you? That is green area. Isn't it tell you that it's not penetrating because the ground is so saturated?
It can only go past a certain point, and I'll tell you myself, I have a very large backyard, and actually I have all kinds of, I've got 33 tomato plants this year, 20 varieties, all kinds of herbs, unfortunately all of them legal, and I turn the sprinkler on, or I'll hose a certain area, and the fact is, before you know it, it really overfills. What happens is the water builds up, it starts running down the sidewalk, and it makes a pool in the alley because the ground got completely saturated. Right. So what we're trying to say, people, so you'll understand, and Michael Hawthorne would be very nice if you paid a little bit of attention, is that you can only pour a gallon in a gallon container.
That's right.
Okay. And you know what? If the clay sits 2 feet below the ground to 3 feet below the ground, there's only so much water that can be absorbed. And, he starts healing things like, there's a possibility of 10 million gallons of rainwater being taken care of by a certain action. Well, you taught me that 1.5 billion gallons is 1 inch of rainfall.
15 billion gallons
is
1 inch of rainfall.
15 billion gallons. Yeah. So now you're talking about what, less than 1,000th of 1%?
Yeah, I mean the storms that you're talking about are storms that dump anywhere from 5 to 7 to 8 inches of rain on a region. Well, your sewer system only can hold or handle 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. They weren't built to handle monsoons. And and Chicago is a swamp area before it was even developed. So, people always say, what can we do to resolve this problem? I said, well, it's cost money, whatever you want to do. And if you want to spend the big money, it can be built. But, that's the problem nowadays. We're trying to build something to alleviate that problem, and it's not happening because the money's not there.
See, people watch TV, they see everything solved in a half-an-hour comedy, including all the world's problems. Or they watch Superman and, okay, let's get Superman to fix the thing up. Maybe he can dredge all the stuff on the bottom of the North Shore Canal. Where environmental activist and journalistic poser Michael Hawthorne would like people to start swimming, which, by the way, is now if you were to clean up the North Shore Channel, let's stay with the rainwater.
Yeah.
So you know what? Because I really want to make the point to people. I think it's important.
Well, and the other thing too, there's always that misconception too is about people living along the North Shore Channel or in the North Shore and stuff like that. Well, we need to open up the river locks right away. You can't open up the river locks right away. The lake is higher than the river, and it has to wait for about a 5-foot swing in order to be any impact by opening those locks. But if we were to open up those locks at the initial part of a storm, all that excess water, that additional water from Lake Michigan will flow into the Chicago River system and into more basements that aren't receiving, sewer backup. So that's how that system works, and that's why we don't open them at the initial part of a storm.
And that's
Or used
important.
to open them. I'm talking in the present. I should be talking.
Right,
in
no,
the
no, no.
past.
You, no, that's true. And you know what? I was reading during the April rains, there were all kinds of people. I was reading articles where people were complaining that the locks weren't being opened.
Yeah, well, and then the other ones, the people like in Des Plaines, Mount Prospect, and the locks have no impact on the Des Plaines River. The only river lock system that has an impact on it is Lockport, which is 35 miles south, which when they have a forecast for heavy rainfall to come to the region, they open up those locks approximately 6 to 8 hours before a storm, just to lower the elevations of the rivers and streams so there's additional capacity to hold the rainwater when it falls. So that's it.
Yeah, people need to understand that there's such a thing as what's physically possible.
Yeah.
And you can wish all you want. And let's talk about permeable cement. Okay, now I actually held some permeable cement in my hand, which a candidate who withdrew, who I happen to like, a very nice person, just doesn't quite know her science, held in her hand. Now, permeable cement is something that will allow water to actually seep
Penetrate through.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were saying, I remember you told me that the only people that you remember, having done it is at White Sox Park.
Well, the White Sox, one of their parking lots, they put in a few years back, about 5 years ago,
Yeah.
just to see. But there again, it's all good and all helps, but if you've only got so much absorption underneath it, where's that excess water going to go?
Right, and
It's still going to flood you out. It's still going to pond. You still need these massive structures to detain this material and this water.
right, and even with the massive structures, which are a tremendous help, because even people talk about that we have a storm of the century now every 2 or 3 years, sometimes every year, but it doesn't happen every day. Most rainfall is going to be contained. It can be contained now.
Yeah, normal rainfalls, if it comes down at a normal rate, is handled pretty well within the Chicago region.
And
It's when you get these large rainfalls in a short duration, that causes problems to the system.
But if you have 6.77 inches of rain within a 2 or 3 day period, even if the deep tunnel were twice as big, it couldn't handle that.
I think we've seen that. April 18th, 2008, 2010, and 2011, when we had massive rainfalls come through the region. So,
Yeah, and by the way, it's not good for my tomatoes too much water because the roots really don't take to too much water.
don't they make them tastier?
Actually, it makes them not grow. Unless I like eating the vine.
There you go.
I
Put some
won't put the
biosolids on it. They'll help.
The biosolids would help. There's no question about it. And by the way, you'll have to come back later in the summer if you're into tomatoes at all, because this year I've got Cherokee Purple, Green Zebra, I've got Black Alaskan, I've got pineapple, orange, any color you can possibly imagine. And I wonder if any of them actually taste good.
You must be sucking up a lot of water back there.
Well, actually, hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Good. You're doing your part.
I am trying to do my part. I don't even have a garage, so I don't have the permeable cement that. Now, I'm only mentioning one poser per show, so Michael Hawthorne, you're the poser for today. but in any event, people need to understand that there's limits, that there is such a thing as nature.
Yeah.
And, in terms of, I'm not even going to get to the global warming thing and all the rest of it,
Well, and the other thing too is Chicago is not like every other city. Every city is different in its own way, whether it's the geology or the people or whatever. There are differences. That was this whole thing with this disinfection. 22 other cities disinfected their effluent. Hey, Milwaukee disinfects their effluent. In 2005, what happened? 840 people got sick because of a parasite. 69 of those people died. They were disinfecting our water. What happened? It had run off the land. Stormwater runoff.
Yeah, and
sewer runoff.
that's only costing the water rec, about $180 million, something like that?
I don't know what the figure is now. So
But it's over $100 million.
I forgot those numbers.
Pardon?
I forgot those numbers.
Well, you don't have to worry about them anymore, but the fact of the matter is, hey, this is another work of Washington, D.C. telling you guys what to do when all they're doing is pouring the disinfected water right over that wonderful toxic stuff sitting in the North Shore Channel.
We're not the only source. That's all I have to say.
No.
You've still got combined sewer overflows. You got 200 in the city of Chicago. You got 175 in the suburban communities. You got storm sewers. You got stormwater runoff. You still got the muck that's on the bottom of that river that's contaminated.
Right.
With heavy metals, inorganics, organics, PCBs, you name it. I mean, the Corps has even done some testing, and they've got data to verify that.
Yeah, and by the way, Frank Avila, who speaks very highly of you when he comes on the show, also happened to mention that even with all these problems, there's so much animals and wildlife, and to use his exact quote, to exactly quote him, the animals do poop along those lines, and the rain washes the poop into there, and that doesn't make for clean water.
I'll leave that conversation to Frank and you.
But I mean, people take it seriously. I mean, you really want to eat
Well, part of the reason your beaches were closing so often was because of the geese.
I didn't know that.
Oh, they did multiple studies, regarding it and the issues. So, they go out and they eat the debris that's left over after the day's events, and they do their thing.
So, anything else you want to talk about with the water wreck stuff, or the environment, and educate people? Would you rather talk about the White Sox?
Yeah, the White Sox they're all right. They're not too. Talking about the Blackhawks.
The Blackhawks, that's another story. Go Blackhawks!
Yeah, tonight's the first game. But
that's that'll be. I am definitely taking an editing break for the Blackhawk game.
Right, there you go. But no, it's the agency's working hard. They're being pressured, from all different angles and avenues.
Yeah.
They still got things that they can't do because they're being held up with the consent decree, trying to come to an agreement on it. So there's things that they want to do, and we've talked about over the years, and they're still talking about them.
You're talking about problems with Washington?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it deals with the time frame as to when these reservoirs will be completed. So, which I'm not going to get into it because it's litigation, but that's holding up a lot of projects that the district wants to do.
Yeah, basically they're saying, hurry up, but we're not giving you the money we're supposed to give you.
But the funny thing about it, they're about 3% away from completing what they need in revenue to finish those reservoirs. And let's get it done. Let's get one project done that we can say, hey, it works, and it has worked to this point. I mean, look at the water quality in the river system.
Listen, it's terrific. When we first started talking about this, there were something like 20-something varieties of fish.
Now there's 68.
Well, 69 with the wild gefilte, which I presented to you last time, if you remember.
We're trying to keep that one out, though. That's another issue for another day. So, hopefully with all the rain that we've had here locally and up in Wisconsin, it will start to raise the lake levels.
I had an English teacher in college. His dad was Joe Woods, the sheriff, as a matter of fact, and he was like a tough law and order guy, and his son was this like hippie guy and all that. Yeah. So we used to hold class at the banks of the Chicago River by Wacker and all that.
Okay.
And boy, did it smell! And it doesn't smell anywhere near like that anymore.
No, it's. I'll tell you, you see what's going on. River walks, cafes, the hotels and businesses are building their front doors facing the river now.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's becoming an amenity to the city, and it's been a boon for economic development and people wanting to come here.
People are fighting for that land. People have docks and stuff in their backyard now.
It's a second lakefront.
Yeah.
In Chicago area.
And definitely, as a matter of fact, I'm going to miss the boat rides, boo-hoo-hoo. Those are fun.
I'll find you somebody to set up a boat ride with.
That'd be fun. Well, I'll go to Wendell, I'll pay him,
I can find somebody over there to help you, too.
Actually, it's funny. The only time I go to places like that is when I have relatives coming from out of town or friends.
It's like anybody. I mean, unless you got somebody coming in from town, you want to show them the city, that's when you go see the sights.
That's exactly right.
But, I remember growing up every Sunday, my dad would take us down to museums. We'd pick a Sunday that was after the bear season, though. So.
Well, that's crucial, as a matter of fact.
Get us a little culture as kids.
Well, the culture is important, but you're right. The beers take precedence, absolutely. Yeah. And I just hope that Emery and Trustman do a good job.
We'll see.
I hope so. I hope so. You're basically staying in contact with a lot of the same people. from
Yeah,
Water
I
Rec?
mean, I get a call occasionally from either the executive director or the current president, just asking where this might be or what that might be, and something like that. But always willing to help out. Like
Yeah,
I said, it's
Now that you're no longer there, how much do rain barrels really help anything?
they take some of the load off the system. I mean, anytime you're using a rain barrel, a rain garden, or cisterns and stuff like that, it's going to take some off the system. But it's not going to take what I think a lot of people think it might take. I think it's being sold as a thing that this is the cure-all to end all to flooding,
I
and
mean,
it's not.
basically, it's a bathtub.
You
full.
are going to need these larger structures.
Yeah.
They're not a waste of money. I mean, they've designed these, they've looked at them, they've done modeling and studies,
The flooding is already a lot less than it used to be in this. The thing is, you only hear one thing I've learned from newspapers and media, people usually only call to complain. As a matter of fact, my guest next week, Patrick Boylan, will let you know about that from the Wells Park Bulldog, which is, in my mind, the best online newspaper going. And I hope you don't mind.
That's
if I
where
plug an
everybody's
Irish
reading.
guy.
That's all right. That's where everybody's reading the news anyhow, right? Online.
Hey, that's where I like to read it. I mean, it's a real model for what a neighborhood
Yeah.
newspaper should be, seriously. But, the fact is that people only complain when something's going wrong. And once the problem gets fixed, they forget all about it.
Yeah. I mean, just with all that's going on in the different agencies throughout the state, the city, the county, everybody's financially broke. Nobody's ever said anything about the district having a AAA bond rating, how cash solvent they are, things of that nature. I mean, it's all negative. Everything's negative.
Yeah.
I don't know if people think that sells newspapers or what, but I'm more into reading positive things. And virtually, I've turned off the news since I'm no longer in office.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have a basic rule of thumb. The only news that should be watched. I mean, okay, true confession time. I think Tracy Butler is so cute, it's unbelievable. And
You must be up early in the morning.
or late at night. and on this much I'll tell you, it's like I'll accidentally put up with about a minute of news to watch her, but that's about it.
There you go. There you go.
So, but as a general, I want to tell you, as a journalist, there is no way. I mean, even newspapers are having serious problems with journalism these days, based on, staffs being cut and limitations of space and lack of advertising, things like that. But if you read a 1,500-word story, now I learned when I was, like in radio, that the average speaking voice is about 150 words a minute.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to read a 1,500-word feature-length story, or, that would be a 10-minute conversation. And since the news shows are 30 minutes and it's only 21 minutes of non-commercial content, not counting welcome to our news and all the rest of it, there isn't that much content. Even a John Cass column, which is about 900 words, would take 6 minutes to read. So how much content can you possibly put in, even if they talk for a minute and a half? It's mostly film clips. And they can lead you any way they want.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, everything should be left up to the media. We weren't the greatest in tooting our own horns either at the district. I mean,
we didn't waste
engineers.
money on PR people like a lot of other people. Yeah. And by the way, the media should not be telling anybody what to do. And all you got to do is that one of the reasons I don't watch the Academy Awards, one of the reasons I don't like to watch all these, some of these nouveau comedies is I don't want to be. People actually watch that stuff and they figure that's the way the world is and that's the way it's time to act, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So if people would like to contact you,
you can reach me at 312-831-2181. It's my office number.
I want to thank you very much, Terry O'Brien,
Thank
the
you,
deposed czar of the Water Reclamation District. He's retired. He was president for 16 of his 24 years there. And as Frank Avila said, they have experienced a serious brain drain. So I want to thank you.
Thanks, Avi.
I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for
Take
having
care,
me on.
Terry. Be well.